Good evening, everyone. I'll call the City Council to order at 8 o'clock on Monday evening, June 5th, 2023. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have 15 items on this evening's agenda, and I will ask the city clerk to please read agenda item number 1.
Minutes of the City Council meeting, May 22nd, 2023.
Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file.
Motion made and second to accept and place on file the minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The meeting minutes are filed 11-0. Agenda item number 2.
Minutes of the special City Council meeting, May 25th, 2023.
Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file.
Motion made and second to accept and place on file the minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The minutes are filed 11-0. Agenda item number 3.
Now is the time for the continued public hearing on the petition from Andrew Deli Carpini on behalf of Colbia Enterprises LLC pursuant to Chapter 342 Gasoline Stations and Car Washes, Section 2, Exceptions of the Code to operate a gas station, convenience store, Shell station at 342 Boston Post Road East on a 24-hour basis. Order number 23-100, 8870A. And in addition, we have a communication from Attorney James Hall on behalf of Colbia Enterprises LLC regarding the memorandum in support of petition for 24-hour operation of gas station, convenience store at 342 Boston Post Road East.
Okay, this public hearing will be taken up in 4 stages. The first being the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. The second, questions from the public. Third, public speaking in opposition. And finally, fourth, questions from the City Council. So we'll open the first part of the public hearing, which is the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Please state your name and address, please.
Thank you. James Hall. My address is 195 Washington Highway, Lincoln, Rhode Island, and I represent the applicant, Colbia Enterprises.
Thanks, Jim.
Just for sake of background, I'm the general counsel for Colbia Enterprises. I've been before the town council, before the planning board a couple of years ago when we originally put the seasons market in place. And obviously what's before the council is a request to operate the seasons market on a 24-hour basis. For a period of time, the location did operate on a 24-hour basis. It was successful the way we would consider a 24-hour operation. It's usually not overly profitable, but when we see a number of visits, anywhere from 70 to 100 visits over the course of an 8-hour period, we consider that a successful overnight operation. And this store falls into that category. We operated without any incident for a period of time. We're here before the council to ask for the essentially a permit giving us an exception to the curfew hours for gas stations. I've personally spoken to the police chief over the past couple of weeks, who has no objection. He had actually noted that he was in favor of the station being open at the really shoulder time around the after midnight and early morning for commuters, particularly on that side of town and close to the highway. What we end up servicing is people that are working second or third shifts, early commuters. And that is a convenience to the community that we found has been, there's been a demand for it. And I've noted that through the number of trips and sales that we have over the course of the evening. What we're looking at, though, is whether there's a convenience and welfare that doesn't somehow become a detriment to the community. And I think the spirit of the exception provision is to allow sort of a trial period. The exception allows for the permit to be issued initially for 1 year, and if all theoretically goes well, you can come back to the council and get the permit renewed for a 5-year period. What our application, I think, has going for it is we did operate for 24 hours for a period of time. We did take over the location from a prior operator that had a 24-hour permit. My understanding is there were some incidents under other management, but as the police chief had noted to me, not a single incident in the time that we've been operating it as a Seasons Corner Market. The other convenience, I guess, argument that you can make for a 24-hour operation is generally in the winter conditions. So what we do see very often in the winter conditions on our 24-hour stores is the private contract plows all fuel up over the course of the night in our locations, and they tend to rely on them, as do commuters looking for either, air for their tires, people coming in for, in the middle of the night for things like Advil and things that they need over the course of the evening, which they're not going to get anywhere else in town. And candidly, large supermarkets just don't have a business model that allows them to be open for 24 hours and make it viable. It's not necessarily the most profitable period of time, but it's viable when you're running a small location like ours. So what we're doing is providing that convenience. We believe it is a welfare for the town. It's gone very well. We would have to eliminate jobs, obviously, if we continue to stay closed through that evening period. And we don't think there's any detriment to public health, the peace, or the safety. In fact, it's helpful. We have 32 cameras on that site, recording everything on the site, and candidly, they catch what's going on around the site. At our other locations where we're in a business zone like this or a commercial zone and not in a residential zone, the cameras, the ability to see what's going on at these intersections, the lighting, the ability for people to get gas, air, food in the middle of the night tends to outweigh the idea that, well, it's open at night and there might be some light. In this particular area, the lighting and the cameras and the safety that's been provided, I think, is more than outweighing the idea that there's an exception that's necessary. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. I've brought with me the top operational team. We've got our Chief Operating Officer and our VP of Operations here, if there's any questions. So let me know.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Hall. Are there any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Are there any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Are there any members of the public speaking in opposition? Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Any questions from the City Council? Councilor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question, there's so much happening in this area of the town. I really want to understand why now? Why is this so pressing? Given the construction on Route 20 and the housing project going in, there's so much already, so much stress on the residents and the people that commute through to now add in a 24-hour gas station. I'm still not hearing the pressing need about why, other than you think it'll be okay financially. What's the, how would this create any duress? Why now? Why does it have to be now?
Well, I mean, why now is simply because we have to come before the board to get the permit to reopen again for 24 hours. So that's the timing issue, candidly. But why it's important now, I think you hit on it when you say we've got housing, we've got commuters. All of these people use that site as a public convenience. We do think it issues a welfare. Where there's more people, there's more welfare, there's more convenience, and that is sort of the standard in which we're looking at under the ordinance, without doing essentially harm, without affecting safety, without affecting any sort of peace. And this store, even in its operation, when it's operating 24 hours, really does do that. It gives a convenience to all of those people that are living in the area to, if you're going to work and you need to be there at 6 o'clock in the morning and you need gas, there's very, very few places you can get that. If you're on a second shift and you need gas on the way home after 11 o'clock, there's very few places you can get that. This particular location, I think, serves that area well. It's in a business zone, it's not in a residential zone, and I think it really does offer a convenience and a welfare. It's not about necessarily making sales over the course of the evening. But it is about providing a well-lit, safe place for people to go when they need gas or air in their tires, or, you know, something for a child, or they're just trying to commute on an off time, because there's more and more people that are working shift work that are commuting in an off time, and that's a welfare for them. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck, candidly.
A quick follow-up question. Remind me, so when was, because it is, even though it's on Route 20, it butts a residential neighborhood who are complaining to me actually quite loudly and concerned about this being operating 24/7 when they're already having to contend with so much that's happening in the area. When was this 24 hours?
The site had been the subject of a 24-hour permit prior to our operation. We opened in 2020 and operated for, through the notice of, the permit notice through 2023. And it's recently been shut down for 24 hours, only open 6 to 11 since really April. But again, I mean, there's no congestion at that time of the night. There's not as if you're causing any additional traffic on the roads at that time of the night. A Seasons Corner Market, or candidly any convenience store or gas station, doesn't drive traffic, it's drive-bys. So it's not a destination site. So those people driving by, whether our store is open or closed, are still going to be driving by. They're just not going to have the convenience of being able to get gas, essentially, in the off hours. I don't know, does that answer the question? I wanted to make sure I do answer the question.
I still have, does the lighting and the business that'll be happening during those hours between the late evening hours into the early mean that aren't happening now? So, I mean, that answers some of the questions, but I'm still concerned about the timing right now with the construction going on. Maybe after the housing's in and the road's complete, I could see the argument, but right now, it's just such a stressful time, and the neighbors are certainly expressing their concern about even more a detrimental impact on their quality of life by having this business go 24 hours. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wagner. Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So you said before that prior ownership, before 2020, this gas station was open 24 hours?
My understanding is before we operated, it had been open for 24 hours.
You know,
our operation has been 24 hours.
Right. Do we know the time frame when that was done?
Don't.
Okay.
I know only since we've been operating it since 2020.
Right. It may be something that might be worth trying for a short term, just to see how it works out. You know, there's going to be a lot of activity, construction going on that road over the next couple of years. The other aspect of it is your point taken, is that, you know, there's no well, either the construction's going to be in the middle of the night to avoid construction during rush hour, or in which case it would impede your business, or it's going to be dead, you know, in which case then that's not an issue. But I think, I don't think there's anything I'd rather see longer term. I think we've had issues with 24-hour gas stations within our community and requests of that. And I don't, you know, I think there's a need, and we need to be very careful and selective in which ones get in, which ones don't.
Yeah.
So that's enough for now. We'll see what happens in Irving.
Thank you. And I think, you know, following up on your point, I think the ordinance actually envisions this idea of a trial period where it gets issued for 1 year, and then you're back before the council to see if it should issue for another 5 going forward. And I think that's probably smart. That's probably the way it should be, to have a trial period. But again, we've kind of had that trial period over the past couple of years. It's gone very well. As I mentioned, you know, the police chief was pleased, and there hasn't been any issues.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Orem?
Actually, you had your hand up before me, Don.
Oh, I'm gonna save most of my questions and comments when it goes to urban. I think that's when we can have a discussion. But I was curious, would you be open on Saturday and Sunday night? Those
Yes.
hours?
Yeah. Yep.
It takes away from your argument a little bit, you know, people going to work, coming home.
Yeah, I think on Saturday night, you know, you've got certain businesses in the area that are open 11 or past 11 on a Saturday night, including a couple of the restaurants that are in the area. And then generally on Sunday nights, believe it or not, they tend to be somewhat busier.
I'll have a few more questions on urban, but I don't know if you people have kept in mind that you have store 32, which is the old price, the price.
Market 32.
Yeah, 32 now. That's open 24/7. That's a big supermarket. And they have everything.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, there are other places that are open for 24 hours, but they tend to be not the drive-by locations, and they tend not to be as close to highways as we try to locate ourselves.
And Council Roby, this will be going to urban, you think? Yeah, so I think that's when we can have a good discussion.
Thank you, Council Landers. Council Orem.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your presentation, Attorney Hall. In your notes that you provided, you said you're near 495, but you're really not. It says right here, near 495, Route 495. We have gas stations on 495. For emergencies, they are open 24/7. I would have a concern about, we allow you to do it, well, why shouldn't we allow the Gulf station down there or the mobile station? You know, it's going to start, why them, not us? That's what we have to be concerned about here as city councilors, as well as you're right next to a residential neighborhood, not on 495. So right now, you're not convincing me that you need this. And if you need the Advil, if you can't get to Price Choppers, you can go to CVS, which is 24/7 as well. But I understand it's a pass-by. I understand there are people working at night, but if you're from this area, you know where the 24/7 gas station is, and it's at 495. So again, my concern is we generate another one and so forth. Why not the next? It's not fair to the others if we say just you and not the others.
And I do understand, and I get that point, which is why I think each one comes before the council on a case-by-case basis. Is it a station that's a non-conforming use that's sitting right in the middle of a residential area? That may be something different. Is it, we're in a business B zone, we're not on 495, we're within a, stone's throw of 495 and probably service a number of people coming off 495 that are looking for gas at night. And I do understand the concerns, that it could become a slippery slope, but again, the type of operation that we have and the type of operation that we've been running in a Seasons Corner Market now for 3 years in town, with the police chief preferring that it be open, with the police chief saying that he has no objection to this and it's been running really well for 3 years, I think is a little bit different. Each case, you can look at those differences and make a decision. I think in this particular case, we do provide a convenience and a welfare for the community without impacting safety or any sort of peace in the area. In fact, it's a very peaceful site. It is well lit, it is safe, it is an area that just services pass by for the most part, and I think a 24-hour operation is actually beneficial to the community in that spot. And obviously, we have other sites that are not 24 hours.
And I respect your position. I mean,
Sure.
You're here representing the company, and I respect what you're saying. But again, remember, we have to consider our constituents, our residents. They'll all be taken up in urban affairs, and probably will ask that the police chief either write a correspondence about this or be at urban affairs, because I want to see exactly what he meant by that comment. But thank you for your information. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Council Orem. Council Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Attorney Hall, it's my understanding that although the gas station was operating 24 hours, they were doing so with no permit by this body.
Yeah.
So when the new owners came in and they were operating and were then told that they could not, that's why you're now before us.
Correct.
So any prior 24-hour operation was being done without a proper permit from the city. So I just want to make that clear
Correct.
to everybody. I actually did bring this up at the most recent Traffic Commission meeting, and yes, the police chief did indicate that he had no problems with it. I guess I'm kind of curious. It's a public hearing, but it's not a typical special permit public hearing, so it wasn't advertised. So I know there are neighbors. It's zoned business. Or am I wrong? Was it actually advertised?
I believe it was advertised. I believe so, yes. I have the advertisement.
Okay, then I take that back. because, yes, Route 20 got rezoned as business, but there are neighbors behind you, and there are neighbors across the street, and a whole new group of neighbors that will be coming in within the next couple of years. So I know there was another request for 24 hours, and we did have neighbors who were vehemently opposed to it. We're not hearing that with this one, so we'll see. It will be before Urban Affairs, of which I'm chair soon, so thank you.
Thank you, Council Roby. Any other questions from the city councilors? Council Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just two questions. So your business model after 11 o'clock, I would assume that you can enter the actual convenience store?
Yes.
Okay. And the second question is, when the fuel tanks need to be filled, is that a certain time? Or will that change based upon now your 24 hours?
That won't change based on being 24 hours. The fuel service contracts that we have and when that's delivered is set based on standard business hours. That won't change based on our 24 hours.
So like a 9 to 5?
I'm sorry?
Like a 9 to 5 or?
It tends to not be 9 to 5. I think generally they tend to be in shoulder times, so it'll be relatively early in the morning or midday or after 5. So you try to time these things when you're not as busy, technically.
Okay. So when you were open 24 hours, they didn't go before the 6 a.m. to 11?
No. They would still have the same. We're not going to change the filling schedule based on 24 hours.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Dumas. Any other questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? I close that portion of the public hearing and the entire public hearing, and this is in Urban Affairs. Attorney Hall, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Agenda item number 4.
Now is the time for the public hearing on the application for a special permit from Andy Fitz on behalf of J.P. Morgan Chase Bank to install a drive-through ATM for the Chase Bank branch to be located at 189 Boston Post Road West. Order number 23-100-8890.
Okay, this public hearing again will be taken up in 4 stages. First, with the public speaking in favor. Second, questions from the public. Third, public speaking in opposition. And fourth, questions from the city council. So we'll start and open the first portion of the public hearing with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. And again, please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Josh Klein with Stonefield Engineering and Design. The address is 120 Washington Street in Salem, Mass. I'm here from Stonefield. We're the project engineer, traffic, as well as the civil engineer on the project. We're here representing the applicant who's looking to take the old Boston Market space and convert it to a Chase Bank, as well as provide a drive-up remote ATM. As you can kind of see, this is the cover sheet of the plans as submitted. So it's a 2-tenant building today, and Chase Bank will be looking to take the left-hand side of the building. If you want to skip ahead to the 3rd page, the site plan. So as you can see, again, Chase Bank is looking to take the left-hand side of the building. As part of the project, there will be a drive-up ATM, which is shown kind of in the all the way to the left-hand side. There used to be kind of parking in that place. So today the site operates kind of in this one-way circulation pattern. As part of the project, we will be, in working with the site plan review committee, upgrading the striping, providing directional signage around the site to help guide customers. But again, we'll have the ATM kind of on that left-hand portion. They'll be able to kind of exit and then continue on through. So it's, it provides kind of a nice, consistent one-way path of travel. These ATMs really don't get busy. Our office works on these across the Northeast. This is able to kind of have up to 4 cars sitting before it would affect any queue. We tend to see about 0 to 1 cars at any given time. In the peak period where we've counted these ATMs kind of across the area, you may get 3 cars at most. So plenty of kind of room, won't impact any of the on-site circulation. And this is not a Chick-fil-A, this is not a Starbucks or a Chipotle. You're not going to see this type of use kind of back up or cause any type of traffic impacts. If you want to skip all the way to the end, I'll just show the ATM briefly. And here's kind of the imagery of it. So it's a standard ATM. It has a canopy. We want to protect the customers when they're there, kind of make sure they don't get rained on. There is lighting, as part of, any type of banking use, security lighting is taken into account. So there is kind of canopy lighting. And then again, you can kind of see the Chase Bank branding there. I'm happy to answer any questions. Overall, this use kind of fits in well with the area. We're not there's no residents around us. There's not going to be any adverse impact from a traffic or a public safety perspective. We're really excited, I know on behalf of Chase to kind of bring this use and bring this exciting tenant into the city.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors. Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your presentation. One of my concerns, and I'm sure this will be discussed in like a site plan review, is around the traffic patterns. As you know, the Raising Cane's just got put in this area, and there was a backup of traffic all on Route 20. And I saw people actually going into other businesses, circling around in their lot, parking there, walking in to go to the facility there, and hopefully that won't continue with that type of constant traffic, but I'd be concerned that people who are trying to actually use your business and then people who are trying to just use the parking area might become intermingling. So I'm just wondering how you're planning to kind of direct people coming off of Route 20 and what the pattern might be. Maybe you could clarify that.
Yeah, no problem. If you want to pull maybe the third page back up. So, one of the, this use is going to be a little bit different than that type of use. We don't see that kind of big day one, kind of grand. People aren't traveling across the area to come to Chase Bank. So we don't expect our use would create that. But this will, kind of the site will operate. It will, perfect. Oh, nice, beautiful. The property will kind of operate in a counterclockwise manner. So we will have kind of, this area here is two-way, which we're providing new pavement markings, and then we'll provide, kind of working with the review committee, directional signage as well as pavement markings. You can see the arrows to kind of help guide drivers around the site. So it kind of helps where you're kind of letting people come into the site, and then they'll be able to kind of come up and around the back of the building and then circulate around. So it creates kind of a nice one-way movement, kind of minimizes conflicting movements. We also are stop controlling, kind of that egress kind of out of the drive-through area as well as the parking area, just to make sure that people coming in and out of that driveway are safe as well.
Mm-hmm. Right, and just to clarify too, I don't anticipate there be a line for the Chase Bank, but more that I think people might misuse your facility for another purpose. So I wonder if there could even be screening between the property and the others, just to further indicate the traffic pattern and that people can't cut through. I know that's something probably with site plan review, but I just want to make sure that the use of the ATM is appropriate, and maybe there's signage to indicate that, what is going there. I know if the curb cuts are very specific and you can't, go through the property, that's really important. But just given the proximity and density in this area and how many drive-throughs are located there, it's just something that, usually we wouldn't necessarily think about this if it was just an ATM use, but it's in the context of the full area. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, and that comes into discussion as we move forward in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perlman. Any other questions from the councilors? Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. So are we eliminating all the parking spots on the left-hand side?
Just correct. So there was, I believe there was a total of 10 parking spaces that will be eliminated. So there was 9 on the left-hand side. And then we did, working with the site plan review committee, we removed 1 space that was here today because it was even kind of before this happened, it was just kind of an awkward location and it was a little bit too short of a space.
Okay, so we're going to keep the regular path where it is now currently, and then add an additional, so it's almost like 2 lanes, correct, or no? Like if I was going in there now, I could circle around.
Correct.
So that circle will still be there, and then we're adding an additional lane on the outer, correct?
So
I'm just having trouble visualizing because it's such a tight area as it is now, unless we remove the parking spots on the...
Correct. We removed the parking spots. Just for reference, there's 27 feet from the back of the parking space here to the curb of where the back of the ATM is. Industry standards as well as kind of the ordinance look at like 24 feet. So we actually have a little bit extra room of what you typically see in a commercial area, and I think that'll kind of help people navigate. It's also, you know, it's 90-degree parking, but it's also one way, so that, I mean, 24 feet is usually enough for cars traveling in both directions, but again, under this layout, which is nice, is everyone's moving in that same constant direction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dumas. Councilor Oram.
Thank you for your presentation. Curious, do you know who your next-door neighbor may be?
I do not know.
Yeah, and that will generate traffic also. I'm sure they want customers as well, so, you know, that, even though you don't know, and I don't know either, unless anyone knows.
It's Ben and Jerry's is there right now.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were staying, no, I saw a lot of, if it is, it's gonna generate, so right now we have Ben and Jerry's, so we know that as a present, and it will generate traffic, and it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out with the traffic design that you have there. Did you take that into consideration when you were designing it, about your tenant?
Yeah, so, I mean, we look at both kind of what's there today, we look at the Chase Bank,
Other
we look at
tenant.
the surroundings to make sure that it can kind of happen safely, happen effectively, which we feel comfortable with. Now, if a different tenant came in, if someone required, you know, more parking or a higher generator, I mean, they would have to go through the kind of the same process we would, depending on if they have a special permit use, or I think they may even have to come in and amend, you know, in front of this council as well. So, you know, I think with what we're proposing, we're very comfortable with the patterns, the parking, and the path around the building.
So, and again, the area you show where the ATM, is it against the building, or is it out in that other area?
So it's not against the building, it's a freestanding ATM. It's located in a concrete pad, so right there.
We have a bank that just opened up with a Starbucks similar to that, where they have the outside ATM, but will you have a window at the bank too that you can do business at?
So there's no exterior teller window. You can go inside for that, but it's just a standard ATM outside.
Okay. That helps me to understand it a little better, and I'm hoping during site review they look into the other tenant to make sure it all fits well.
Yeah, we have met with them twice. We've, you know, kind of addressed all of their comments and concerns coming into this, including kind of providing some of that additional striping and eliminating that space down at the bottom of the page. We've also upgraded the landscaping around the site, provided kind of all new pavement markings and directional signage as well.
Excellent. Maybe the construction I saw, I think it was last Friday, I was down that way, must have been the Boston market equipment going out, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Oram. Any other questions? Councilor Landers.
Again, we'll talk about it in urban, but it's, the pattern is a little concerning because you have Ben and Jerry's there, and that produces a lot of young people, a lot of kids. And actually, you people are gonna have a lot more traffic, especially with the drive-up, you know, than Boston Market had. So I think this will be a good discussion in site review. You know, the chief is there. And, you know, it's a little concerning, but I'm not saying you guys can't work it out. That traffic pattern, you have cars coming in and out, and kids getting out of cars have to cross over to enter Ben and Jerry's. I mean, you are gonna have more traffic, as I mentioned, Boston Market. That would be a good topic for us in our subcommittee meeting. I'm all set.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. Any other questions from the councilors? Questions from the councilors? Councilor Roby?
I actually don't have questions, and I'm sorry, but the mom and me is sitting here cringing. I would just like to remind the council that this is a council meeting, and when we need to say something, we rise and then speak.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. Any other questions from the councilors? I gotta do it 3 times again. Any other questions from the councilors? Any other questions from the councilors? Hearing none, I close that portion of the public hearing and the entire public hearing, and this is in Urban Affairs. Thank you very much, Mr. Klein. Agenda item number 5.
Communication from Personnel Committee Chairman Dumas regarding reappointments from Mayor Vigent to various boards, commissions, and committees.
Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to suspend the rules, take the reappointments out of the Personnel Committee.
There's been a motion by Councilor Dumas to request a suspension of the rules to remove these 9 orders and 10 reappointments from the Personnel Committee. All those in favor of the suspension? Opposed? The suspension carries 11-0. Councilor Dumas.
Thank you. I move to approve the 10 reappointments, or 9 order numbers to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve the 10 reappointments that show up on 9 orders as submitted in Councilor Dumas's letter. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Doucette.
Please note, I am standing up. So I've been thinking about this one for a while, and of course, I'm going to approve the reappointment of them, but I think we're missing something, not having them come to the committee as a sign of respect for the work that they're doing for our community. And, you know, I think that's an important part of the process, that we acknowledge them in public for the work they're doing and volunteering for the city. And I think that we're missing that by approving it this quickly. On the other hand, I have no problems approving it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any other questions or comments from the councilors? Councilor Orm.
Maybe out of, you know, a little wiggle room is we announce the 9 names here, and if you have the names right away, that way they get some recognition.
The clerk is all over this.
Because I agree, I agree with Councilor Doucette, they should get a little recognition, but their reappointments, I don't think I'd have any questions on any of them, but
If there's no objection, I'll have the city clerk
Thank
read
you.
the names of the 10 appointments.
Reappointment of Nina Bloomquist to the Library Board of Trustees. The reappointment of Paul Gould to the Fort Meadow Commission. Reappointment of Stephanie Ferrecchia and David Morticelli to the Community Development Authority. Reappointment of Dr. Joseph Tennyson to the Board of Health. Reappointment of Deborah McManus to the Commission on Disabilities. The reappointment of Linda Clark to the Board of Registrars. And the reappointments of John Scarron and Karen Paquin to the Conservation Commission. And the reappointment of Ellen Silverstein to the Board of Assessors.
and David, right? Oh, you did. Sorry.
You all set? You're good?
Yeah, I didn't hear, you said David.
David's
I
in.
apologize, Counselor, it said Stephanie Ferrecchia and David Morticelli
Oh,
to the Community Development
You
Authority.
talk so fast, Mr. No, thank you so much for reading them. Thank you,
So
Mr.
on the
President.
9 orders and 11 appointees, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? They are all reappointed, 11-0. Agenda item number 6.
Communication from the mayor regarding capital transfer requests in the amount of $1,598,076.10, which moves funds from free cash to capital outlay for various departments, various departmental needs as outlined.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to refer to the Finance Committee, please.
Motion made and seconded, refer to the Finance Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It's going to Finance, 11-0. Agenda item number 7.
Communication from the mayor regarding proposed zoning amendments to Chapter 650 zoning to add a new Section 37A multifamily MBTA housing overlay district relative to the multifamily zoning requirements for MBTA communities.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to refer to Urban Affairs.
Motion made and seconded to refer to the Urban Affairs Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It's going to Urban Affairs, 11-0. Agenda item number 8.
Communication from City Solicitor Jason Grossfield regarding a request for executive session to discuss litigation strategy relative to JW Capital Partners LLC and Marlborough TOTG LLC versus the City of Marlborough.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to have this item moved to the end of the agenda after item 15.
Motion made and seconded to move this item to the end of our agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It's going to the end of the agenda, 11-0. Agenda item number 8. 9.
Communication from Central Mass Mosquito Control Project regarding personnel will be in the community responding to residents' concerns about mosquitoes on various dates in June 2023.
Councilor Orm.
Thank you, Mr. President. Someday I'm going to wear a mosquito outfit to the meeting. I feel like I'm the mosquito guy from Marlborough. But anyways, Monday nights, residents can make a request prior through the Central Mass Mosquito Control, and I trust our city clerk has already posted this online so they know the number to call, or they know the website. Thank you, Mr. President. I accept and place on file, please.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file the communication. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is filed 11-0. Agenda item number 10.
Communication from the Sudbury Companies of Minute and Militia regarding a request for a temporary sign placement at the corner of Route 20 and Hager Road from September 23rd, 2023 to October 1st, 2023 for the 2023 Colonial Fair and Muster at Wayside Inn.
Councilor Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to approve the request by the Sudbury Companies for the temporary sign from September 23 to October 1st.
Motion made and seconded to approve the temporary sign location for the Sudbury Militia. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved 11-0. Agenda item number 11.
Application for a wireless special permit from Kristen Ledoux on behalf of Dish Wireless to install 3 wireless antennas and related equipment on the rooftop at 2 Mount Royal Avenue.
Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please refer to Public Service Committee. We have to advertise this, I believe, and also set a date for a public hearing.
Motion made and seconded to refer to the Public Services Committee. We'll set a public hearing for June 26th and will advertise. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is going to public service with a public hearing on June 26th and advertise 11-0. Agenda item number 12.
Application for modification of a special permit from Ralph Ornov on behalf of Green Gold Group, Inc. to amend the hours of operation, type of use, and allow for internally illuminated signage at the adult-use marijuana retail establishment located at 910, Boston Post Road East within the Wayside District.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to refer this to Urban Affairs, set a public hearing for June 26th, and advertise.
Motion made and seconded to refer this item to the Urban Affairs Committee. We'll set a public hearing for June 26th, and we will advertise. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The item is going to Urban Affairs with a public hearing on June 26th and advertise 11-0. Agenda item 13.
Minutes of boards, commissions, and committees.
Mr. President?
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file the minutes of the boards, commissions, and committees.
Motion made and seconded, accept and place on file all the minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The minutes are filed 11-0. Agenda item 14.
Claims.
Councilor Pearlman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to refer the claims to the legal department.
Motion made and seconded, refer the claims to the legal department. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The claims are going to legal 11-0. Reports of committees. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Committee met on May 25th, 2023. We had 4 items that evening on the agenda. First item was order number 23-100-8878, communication from Mayor Vigent with a transfer request in the amount of $600,500 from reserve for salaries and undesignated fund to fire department payroll accounts to cover contractual obligations for the fire department. On a motion by Councilor Pearlman, seconded by the chair, the committee voted to recommend approval. It carried 5-0. Second item was order number 23-100-8879, communication from Mayor Vigent with a transfer request in the amount of $94,037.90 from undesignated fund to fringe to cover the shortfall in the 1% non-pensionable stipend paid to all city employees. On a motion by Council Pearlman, seconded by the chair, the committee voted to recommend approval of the transfer. It carried 5-0. Third item was order number 23-100-8880, communication from Mayor Vigent with a transfer request in the amount of $9,102 from undesignated fund to substance abuse coordinator to fund the position for the remainder of the year. On a motion by Council Orm, seconded by the chair, the committee voted to recommend approval of the transfer. That carried 4-0. Last item was order number 23-100-8882, communication from Mayor Vigent requesting City Council authorization to set the spending limits for the following accounts: Parks and Recreation revolving account to $1,275,000, Council on Aging revolving account $150,000, Public Safety revolving account to $203,000. Water and Sewer revolving account to $500,000. On a motion by Council Orem, seconded by the Chair, the committee voted to recommend approval of the transfer. Vote carried 5-0. And meeting adjourned at 7:45 p.m. And I will be asking for one suspension this evening, Mr. President, for order number 23-100-8878, please.
Been a motion made and second to request a suspension from order number 8878, which is the firefighter funding of the firefighter contract. All those in favor of the suspension? Opposed? The suspension carries 11-0. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve the transfer request in the amount of $600,000, $600,500 from reserve for salaries and undesignated fund to the fire department payroll account, please.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the $600,500 transfer request to fund the firefighter contract. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The funding request is approved, 11-0. Any other reports of committees or announcements? Councilor Roby.
Thank you. I will just announce that Urban Affairs is meeting next Wednesday at 7 or 7:30. We haven't decided yet what time.
So, Urban Affairs, June 14th at either 7 or 7:30. Any other reports or announcements from committees? Hearing none. Agenda item 15.
Order number 23-100-8881A, proposed fiscal year 2024 operating budget as submitted by Mayor Vigent in the amount of $188,751,024, which represents a 4.57% increase over the fiscal year 2023 appropriation. Recommendation of the Finance Committee is to approve as amended.
Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to postpone to the June 12th, 2023 City Council meeting, please.
Motion made and second to postpone the action on this item until our June 12th special meeting that I'll be calling for the City Council. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? This will be postponed to the June 12th special meeting of the City Council. 11-0. Agenda item 8.
Ordered that the Marlborough City Council meet in executive session under Purpose 3 of the Open Meeting Law, Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body regarding the pending matter of JW Capital Partners, LLC and Marlborough TOTG, LLC versus Marlborough City Council. As the chair hereby declares that discussion in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the city and the City Council's litigating position. The City Council will not reconvene in open session after the executive session.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to go into executive session for the reasons just read by the city clerk.
Motion made and seconded to go into executive session. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilor Wagner.
Yes.
Councilor Navin.
Yes.
Councilor Pearlman.
Yes.
Councilor Orem.
Yes.
Councilor Doucette.
Yes.
Councilor Landers.
Yes.
Councilor Irish.
Yes.
Councilor Brown.
Yes.
Councilor Ossing.
Yes.
Councilor Dumas.
Yes.
Councilor Roby.
Yes.
11 yeas, sir.
The City Council will now go into executive session. We will not be reconvening, so we will be adjourning our formal televised portion of the proceedings this evening. So with that, we are adjourned except for the executive session portion.